Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a massive shift in the world of learning. We're talking about the leap from your traditional local classroom to a truly borderless educational landscape. And, of course, we're going to look at the incredible professionals who actually make this happen. Okay, so let's just jump right into it with a huge, fundamental question. How exactly do you prepare the learners of today for meaningful lives tomorrow? It's a massive challenge, and it sits squarely on the shoulders of modern educators.
To get us in the right headspace, the source material throws a really interesting exercise at us. It literally challenges us to think outside the box. Seriously, what are the jobs of the future even going to look like? With that huge unknown looming over us, how on earth must school curricula adapt to actually fit what students will need? We simply cannot prepare tomorrow's workforce using yesterday's blueprints. The pressure on schools to figure this out is absolutely immense.
So, Section 1, Defining Global Education, the macro view. Let's take a look at UNESCO first. They view global education as a very structural goal. Basically, it's about creating awareness of educational conditions, specifically in developing countries. Their main target? Educating people to a standard that's acceptable worldwide. So it's a very broad, systemic approach to kind of lifting up educational conditions across the entire globe. Now, what's super interesting here is how researcher James Becker defined this way back in 1982. It's a total contrast to that bureaucratic approach. He sees global education as an effort to help learners view the world as a single, interconnected spectrum, and more importantly, helping them actively participate in it. It's a deeply personal, holistic view. It focuses way more on the learner's actual place in the world, rather than, just hitting some standardized metric. And it's cool to see how this transition plays out in the module. We go from these high-level philosophical ideas straight into the hard, real-world commitments that actual nations are making. Let's keep moving and see how this all connects. Right. Section 2, the UN Education Goals, Operationalizing Ideas. So, a really vital historical anchor here is the year 2000. It was at the World Education Forum in Dakar that the Philippines officially committed to the Education for All, or EFA, goals. By making this promise, they basically stepped right onto the global education stage, agreeing to align everything they were doing domestically with these big international targets. And to put some structure around this massive undertaking, the UN set out 6 core objectives. Let's run through them really quick. First, expand early childhood care. Second, provide free primary education. Third, promote life skills. Fourth, increase adult literacy by a whopping 50%. Fifth, achieve gender equality by 2015. And sixth, universally improve the quality of education across the board. But let's just pause for a second. What if we look past those bullet points? When you boil it down, the main purpose here is simple but incredibly profound. It's about equal opportunity and access to knowledge and learning tools as the absolute right of every single child. These aren't just UN checklists. They're fundamental human rights that literally dictate a child's entire future. Moving on to Section 3, Traits of a Global Teacher, the micro level. So, what actually makes someone a global teacher? Well, the crucial point is that a global teacher isn't just someone who hops on a plane to teach abroad. Actually, it's a mindset. It's a highly competent educator who holds universal values and uses all the latest educational breakthroughs and innovative strategies, whether they're placed locally or globally. They think with a wide global perspective, right there in the very community they're assigned to. The source material really dives into this by outlining specific standards. And it's pretty fascinating because it uniquely applies these global concepts to define what makes a truly global Filipino teacher. Let's check out these traits because it is a fantastic blend of skills. First off, a global Filipino teacher has to know how interconnected the world is. They need to be visionary, seeing a non-static future for both themselves and their students. They've got to be creative and innovative. Employing digitally mediated learning is an absolute must, along with having rock-solid communication skills. And finally, they must possess the core competencies of a professional teacher, as laid out in the NCBTS. That's the National Competency-Based Standards for Teachers. It's this perfect fusion of rigorous, traditional teaching standards with modern digital and visionary capability. Okay, Section 4, the global teacher demand, real-world economics. The global landscape is shifting so fast right now, and borders for educators are literally evaporating. The text highlights an urgent, soaring need for competent teachers worldwide. We're seeing this demand absolutely spike in neighboring Asian countries like Thailand, Indonesia, Singapore, and Cambodia. But here's the kicker, it's equally dire in highly developed nations like Japan and the US. To really drive this point home, the text cites a pretty stark headline from The Guardian. It reads, Arizona looks to Philippines to fill teacher shortage, which is the job Americans won't take. I mean, let that sink in for a second. It's a powerful statement, right? It reveals exactly how international labor dynamics are totally reshaping the modern education sector. And this brilliantly illustrates the whole push and pull of the global economy. On one side, you have college-educated Americans who are just becoming increasingly uninterested in low-paid, demanding teaching jobs in their own country. But on the flip side, this creates a massive vacuum, and that leads to the active recruitment of highly skilled, fully prepared global teachers from the Philippines who step in and make a huge impact in those very classrooms. It's a real game changer. Which leaves us with a highly provocative, deeply personal question. Imagine you're a newly minted global teacher. Do you plan to teach abroad the second you graduate? Or do you want to stay in the Philippines to teach your fellow Filipinos despite the lower salary? It forces you to weigh your own economic future and all those vast opportunities of a borderless classroom against your local patriotic duty. It's a heavy, real-world choice for sure, and it just perfectly encapsulates the complex reality of global education today. Thank you so much for hanging out with me for this explainer. Keep learning and keep looking at the big picture.